talk about that. And a big shout out to Dylan and Ruby.
Yes, absolutely.
Our biggest fans.
Well, our new listeners.
Yes. And I think this is a really cool thing. And share the story.
Well, I think Dylan was at school, and they were talking about the fact that all the different media that's available now, and they also do some fantastic stuff at Dylan and Ruby's school about safety
tell
online.
The school. What's the school?
So the school's Nord Anglia School in Nalbarsha.
Big shout out to those guys.
Yeah, absolutely.
If you're in Dubai, this is just a fantastic education.
It is. It's a great school. We're really happy there and been there for quite a long time now. And so obviously the discussion went on to podcasts and what does anybody know about podcasts? And Dylan put his hands up and said, my dad's got a podcast. You know, he's always, it's me that's got it. Nothing to do with you, James, as far as he's concerned.
Yeah. It's your podcast. It's We Will Fix It podcast.
And then they are, so what's it about? So you say, We Will Fix It. They all know that about We Will Fix It. So at that point, they said, no, what's it actually about? And he was a bit lost. We Will Fix It? Yeah, but what about We Will maintenance things?
He's right.
So he came home and he said, Dad, can we listen to your podcast? And I was like, oh, okay. And actually, I don't really listen to them because it feels like it's a little bit of an egotistical activity to listen to your own podcast, unless you're critiquing. And in the past, I've listened to it just to go, can you stop saying, Colin? No, I can't.
You haven't done any.
I've just did one. I've just spotted it myself. Okay. So, as a result, the next morning, we started listening to the podcast in the morning. And Ruby really likes it as well, but sometimes she's not fully clear about the subject matter, which is lovely, because actually...
means you then have to engage and explain.
Yes, exactly. So we have that.
Perfectly then.
Yeah, no, it is. And considering they're only 10 and 6, so they're still really young, and it's something that I'm really enjoying.
Oh, good.
It's very weird because they don't see much of work life or anything to do with what I do for a living. So it's worked really, really well. Yeah. Mind you saying that, we're only like a week and a half in, I think. So we've done about 4 or 5, I think.
Okay, now hold on a second. So I listen to all these podcasts, and as you're saying, sometimes you don't want to re-listen to them. So I listen to them as we do the prettying it up a little bit. So I hear all of our podcasts, which actually gets kind of confusing because I'll do some maintenance to them, then I'll post them up, and they might not go up immediately. So there's some lag time, and so I start getting them all confused. Which one?
Me too.
But your wife features prominently in these podcasts.
There is that issue.
So how are you dealing with that?
Well, interestingly enough, the kids kind of understand that dynamic, as you can imagine.
Because they live it.
Yes, they do live it. So as a result, it's never really been an issue so far.
Okay.
And actually, when I'm listening back to it, I don't cringe on the discussions with Natalie because I think I paint her in a very loving light.
You do.
But at the same time,
I'm the one who calls her
husband, the husband and wife dynamic, when you've got two very direct people in that relationship, can be direct.
Yes.
So on that basis, it hasn't been an issue. It's been fine so far, but I'm not sure that I've really gone for it yet.
I think I would like to hear a special edition of Simon Smedley's podcast with you and your wife and him and his wife, because they're up to, I think...
22, isn't it?
No, 40. They've done 40 plus podcasts.
What's it? Husband and wife, sentenced to life. That's it. Which is a great name, isn't it?
And he's fully bought into the road environment as well. So he's got a roadcaster like we're using. He's got Rode mics so they can record onto the phone when they're sitting in the car or something.
Yeah.
But I would love to hear you 4 on that podcast.
Well, Natalie won't talk to anyone else. Literally, it's a stretch to get to talk to her mother. So
that ain't going to happen.
No, never in a month of Sundays. But we've been to their house for a party a while back. It was lovely, really, really good. Shout out to those guys, absolutely awesome people, to say the least.
Okay, one of the things that you recently posted up, We Will Fix It, Essential Maintenance posted up on Instagram.
Insta what?
Yeah, exactly. And you guys do some really great posts. So hats off to your social team because they're cool. We had the cyclone go through in Oman. That cyclone pittered out as it went inland towards Al Ain. If you're unfamiliar with that, the geography that I'm talking about, take a look at a map. Go and look at Strait of Hormuz. Go down and look at Oman, and you can see where everything's located with the Gulf, etc., and the Gulf of India. It's the Gulf of India is on the coastal side with Fujairah and Oman, and then we have the Gulf on our side, the Arabian Gulf on our side. So you can see where the cyclone went inland, etc.
Yeah.
Nice. The whole upshot of that, because people are going, why do I care, is storm, wind, things. And so I wanted to talk a little bit about preparedness for weather and storms, whether that be rain, whether that be wind, whether that, in our case, sand, whether that be in other people's cases, ice or snow. And you still got things outside. You've still got things that can be damaged. And you guys put out a great post saying, hey, storms are coming, storms are happening. We can help you get back on track and start thinking of preventative maintenance. So I want to talk to you a little bit about that.
Yeah.
And the link in with Simon, which is, or if you're in the region, that's the cat boy. The link in with him was he was talking with their news people at some point about storms and wind and pergolas flying all over the place. And he was, and I thought, this is exactly what Colin and I talk about. This is a great topic. So we picked that up a little bit. And I never thought, this has got to be the most long-winded intro ever, never thought of essential maintenance dealing in that area, or WeWillFixIt dealing in that area. So I was kind of like, never would have thought of calling you guys for that.
It's an interesting one that you've hit, because there's two main areas to that are relevant to us here in the UAE, which is wind and water. Those are the two main ones. So this time round, we were expecting the cyclone to hit us, now 48 hours ago, isn't it? Yeah. Somewhere around there. Yeah. And everybody was kind of bated breath, because in the past, if I can be brutally honest, we were kind of waiting for this to happen. A sandstorm's brilliant because it clogs up your ACs that are on the roof. You've got split units on the roof. It goes straight into the condenser coils, blocks them all up. Loads of business comes our way, and we're like, this is great.
Which great from a business side, terrible from my side.
From a customer's perspective. But actually, our attitude has changed somewhat, because now, if you imagine, a large part of our business is the essential maintenance, annual maintenance brand.
Yeah, you don't want this stuff happening.
No, because then we've got everything under warranty. And then at that point, free of charge, I've got to find a lot of staff very quickly to get out to all these customer houses within a 4-hour period, which is the commitment, and clean all of this off speedy. So our attitude over the years has changed as the annual maintenance brand has become more important than it was. So it's been great. So that's the kind of the start point. So let's talk about sand first of all. Two scenarios really with sand, which is first of all getting into your ACs. We've just touched on that. The second one is seals on windows and doors.
Oh, yes.
Yeah. Okay. So I have seen a house that has been post a sandstorm where they'd left just a sliding door open, one sliding door. And this is, do you remember, there was an utter classic about 6-7 years ago where it was a red out here. So the sand was all red because it had come from the Sahara, I think. It wasn't even local.
I do remember that.
Yeah, and I remember driving down near the kind of Ras Al Khor flamingos and all that reserve, whatever that was called.
So if you're not in Dubai, and this is kind of cool, this is another thing to come and see, is we have these, you would think of it as a marshland really, and it is a mangrove, it's a mangrove swamp. And at the ends of these mangrove swamps, especially in Dubai, it's where all these flamingos are. And so you can just see
isn't it?
Thousands of them if it's the right time of year.
Yeah, and a free viewing platform is just amazing. It really is.
It's all sheltered too, so you're sort of in a nice protected environment, so they're not scared of you. You can see them. It's really cool. So anyway, the red out.
The red out, it was that bad that I could not see the end of my bonnet.
Really?
I just couldn't believe it. So we would.
I'm going to interrupt you for a second. Joey Woo is laughing right now because he's wearing a bonnet like Little Red Riding Hood? What is this guy?
Hood, hood, for our northern American colleagues. Bonnet.
Yeah, so you couldn't see the front of your car.
I couldn't see the front of my car, and I've got the whole family in there. And in those days, 7-8 years ago, Dylan was 2 or 3, so I'm really thinking about it. Luckily, we were in something big. What's he in? Ford Expedition, actually.
And a nice vehicle.
It drifted beautifully. 2.7 tons drifting is a lot of fun. Not with the family in before we get the children taken away. But
Patrol versus patrol. You're in a patrol.
Totally different. Totally and utterly different. We'll get on to that. Right, come on, we've got to get back there.
I know, get back to the bonnet, get back to the sand.
Now,
So
the problem with this is you don't want to pull over, because if people, the way that Dubai is, if people decide that they want to get through it and get through it at speed for whatever reason, they go on the hard shoulder.
Yeah.
In which case you get rear-ended beyond belief.
Yeah.
Equally, you don't really want to move forwards because you can't see the end of your bonnet.
Yeah.
So in the end, I just tried to do kind of the mix of everything. I thought, right, stuff the windscreen. I am going to put my wipers on full tilt so I can just try and see as much as possible. And then I took it down to 20 or 30 with every bit of light on that I possibly could. And thank goodness the worst of it passed within like a minute and a half.
Nice.
But that was the scariest I've ever had in Dubai. So where was I going with that? Oh yeah, so straight after that one.
We were talking about the window seals and things.
So there was a door that was open for that one.
Just a crack or wide
No, that was wide open. Because it had been lovely weather beforehand.
Yeah.
And
how many times has that happened to you? It's happened to us. Where you've left all your windows open because it's beautiful. And then you're somewhere like at work or you're out and you get a message, sandstorm's blowing through.
yeah, oh God. I know, I mean the fallout is absolutely horrific.
So this door was open.
This door was open, and I think that they must have got it was in the villa, and they must have got kind of an epicenter or something that had gone through there. Because it left up to like 3 feet in one corner was a sand dune. I mean, it literally was a sand dune.
And this is an occupied home.
Oh yeah, it's an occupied home. There was a table in the middle of the sand dune.
In North America, in the middle of the winter, you leave your door open during a snowstorm. That's what we're talking about.
Yeah. So bless them, that was a fair bit of work to get that sorted out. But again, even a crack can just throws the amount of dust that comes through is quite something.
Is there anything we could do for our window seals to check them to ensure that they're closed? Aside from making sure your doors are closed, is there any options available to us?
Yes, but there's nothing easy. As a minimum, the start point would be just to use a tiny little bit of grease on the seals, just to try and improve that seal. But again, the problem is with grease that stuff sticks to it. And so it's going to get dirty over time. So once you do it once, you've got to keep on it, which is a bit of a pain. Secondly, if they've got a defective seal, unfortunately, the way it works here is the windows are done, generally speaking, in batch for the development where you live.
Right.
Once that contract is done, you'd have thought that the window people would go, here we go, we can make loads of money if we hold on to spares from this. Nah, not the case. You can find the odd contractor that can actually do it at a certain time when he's got the spares available, he's got a supplier, but there's just nobody really reliable that you can kind of...
Why is no one doing that? Like, why isn't a window manufacturer looking around at the ranches or the springs or those developments and saying, hey, this is an opportunity. If I could go in, I get all the measurements, I start making the spares because I know that seals are going to go, I know that bushings and rubber pieces are going to go.
Honestly, the reason for that is quite simple, which is they're all different parts, so they'd have to hold on to quite a large stock. There isn't a lot of commonality with the way it's been done. So to go development to development rather than individual
developments. Couldn't they manufacture
developments.
them as needed if they at least have the basic patterns ready?
No, because it wouldn't be here that they would do that. The other side of things is, the way it's actually working now in the ranches is a lot of properties through the pandemic got sold at bottom rate from people that needed to leave.
Yeah.
And instead they're replacing all the windows. Your options are, as a manufacturer, take the 1,500 dirhams for the repair, or alternatively sell them 150,000 dirhams worth of new windows. So that's the attitude that they're taking at the moment. And I'm seeing it everywhere. You won't believe how many places are getting renovated right now in Ranches One. Even in this is my street. My street, I think it's 7.
7 renovations?
Yeah, like no, full on, as in gut the whole place, rip everything out, and put it new in.
Well, and I get that. I think that might be a phenomenon that's happening across Dubai. Because
absolutely.
The repair guys who do some work on my place, they came and looked at something, and I said, "So what's going on?" I said, "Oh, we're doing renovations in Jumeirah."
Yeah, but the nuts thing is, we went from low, like the absolute lows of the market. What is it? 15 months ago, I think.
15 months. It was like, this is awesome.
And now it is insane. So these people have that much equity in the properties that are like, I can happily throw $1 million at this and not even think about it. I'm still in huge amounts of credit and I get the house I always wanted. Well, no wonder. They're absolutely booming at the moment for the renovators.
Sliding doors are patio doors.
Yes.
These are notorious issues.
Yeah, they are. And, the bottom rail of a patio door is easy. And literally, you can go at that with just a graphite grease.
Okay. Can I get graphite grease here? You talk a lot about graphite grease.
I love graphite grease. Well, I have 2 different versions, thanks to Mark. Nice one, dude, you rock. Which is, I have a graphite powder, which gets around the issue of grease and sand, which is the big problem there. Can you get it locally? Probably not, but I've got some. Hey!
So is there a reason they're not selling?
I'm sure you could order it in on Amazon.
Yeah, you can order anything there. But why is no one selling it here?
Because there isn't that DIY culture that there is in either Northern America or Europe. Yeah. So as a result, there's just not enough of a market for it, I think.
I find one of the issues also with those sliding doors is they as they age, things shift and they kind of get out of line. So where they would close beautifully, they don't close snug up anymore.
Yeah.
Is there anything we can do about that?
No. No, you could fit another seal. If you imagine the sealing point between the two, you could fit a new seal in there. But to do it, you need to take the door out and then literally find the seal.
But your guys could do it.
Well, we don't. We don't tend to, because if you imagine, that's a high-risk job.
Okay.
And we would say on that one, look, for this to be successful, and if you imagine anything that we do, we need to be confident not only will it get through our 1-year warranty period, but in addition, I don't want to get through a 1-year warranty period. I want to get through 5 to 10 years as a minimum.
Yeah.
Well, if you're not a specialist in something that's a specialist activity, you're not going to guarantee that.
So this is an example where you'd say, hey, sorry, we can't do it to the extent that we want it and that you're going to want it. We're going to have to walk away from this one. But hey, there's some window guys we know.
Yeah. So for this, traditionally, we probably start with float glass as a start point in Alcoos. Interestingly enough, float glass struggled to sell float glass in 2 mil, which I just heard yesterday, which was hilarious. A guy, that's for window framing, not window framing, for picture framing. Yeah. They just need 2 mil standard float glass, as easy as it gets. Not available currently, which is odd, isn't it? Huh. Yeah. So I would start with those guys, and then at that point you need to go specialist. So go to the development, find out who the original supplier was. It should be in the pack if you got that with your home, but these days it's an old development, that might be long gone. But again, your developer should be able to give you that list. And at that point, it just makes sense to go with the pros. Yeah. Don't mess about.
Someone say, I can help you with this.
Yeah, but the difference, there is jobs that can be done. So the second thing, apart from sand, is water. And water ingress is an unbelievable problem here. This winter, because last year, if you remember, we got no rain whatsoever for the first time in living history.
I think we're going to get rain this year.
Right. Well, I do as well. Now, the problem...
And just to pause here, and I'll tell you when the projected rain is going to happen, because I live very close to Murdoch City Centre.
Yeah.
And there is a little bit of a gully coming out of the back of Murdoch City Centre.
There is, isn't there? I know that one.
And when that gully, when we get bad weather and rain is projected, the municipality puts the biggest pump I've ever seen sitting there with this, it's got to be a 6-inch hose attached to it to suck the water out of the lake that forms. And so as the weather's getting bad or there's potential, this thing shows up. So
right, send me the message or the photo.
I'll let you know the pump's here.
Yeah.
It's not a good sign.
So it's with that, there's 2 issues with water that you find. First of all, windows.
No.
Now, that we can fix, and we can fix it easily. The difference that we...
Okay, what's the problem with the windows?
So they're just not sealed.
Okay.
And the reason they're not
sand. It's not sealed for sand. It's not sealed for water.
Yeah, but this isn't in between the window and the window surround. This is behind the surround that it happens.
Okay.
And the reason is, when they were originally put in, they were put in with substandard silicon. So over the years, it's expanded and contracted, it gets brittle, it cracks out, and most of them are gone now.
What's the lifespan of silicone on windows? Even if it's, are we talking...
For good quality, European or US, no, but you'll get 5 to 10 years out of a good one.
And then you got to peel it off and put some new stuff on.
Yeah, if you get, a lot of it is from the subcontinent, unfortunately, where they don't really have the same manufacturing qualities for this kind of stuff.
I would have thought silicone is silicone.
No, definitely not. No. Definitely not. You can get a 5 dirham silicone, you can get a 25 dirham silicone, and the 25 dirham one is worth 5 times the 5 dirham one. It really is. So
here's a great one. I've got one of these little, I've got a couple of these little supply shops around where I live.
Yeah.
Kind of like the guys in Satwa.
Yeah.
And when I go in there and I say, I need some silicone. And the guy sells me the 25 dirham one, and I see these other ones. What about this one? He goes, 5 dirhams. And I go, yeah, and he goes, and he won't sell it to me. He goes, no, you don't want that.
Yeah.
And similar thing, there's a little auto shop there, and I always like to have extra coolant on hand. And again, I went in, and the guy says, that's 25 dirhams for this. And I'm going, or 40 dirhams for this. And I'm going, well, what about this one? He goes, you don't want that one either. I won't sell it to you.
That is a great supplier, though.
But my thing is, who's he selling that stuff to? Because he sees me and he's not.
Most people. That's the problem.
He won't sell it to me.
We talked about this with AC gas. It's exactly the same scenario. The stuff that we were using before Enviroserve, which was out of Singapore, was 3 times the cost of the Indian stuff that 99% of companies here use. And it's so frustrating because you can't explain, you don't have enough communication space to be able to explain to a customer, they're damaging your ACs with this. It's not a question of it just doesn't cool as well. It's not. They don't have the lubricants that they should have, and they're just not regulated. It's a real pain. Now we have Enviroserve.
There we go.
It's absolutely awesome, the best we've ever got, and it's recycled.
You know what? Head back to the podcast. Head back to our online YouTube channel, and just over a year ago, we did a whole show over at Enviroserve.
Was it that long ago?
Yeah.
Man, what a day that was.
Yeah.
I mean, we were there you were there for longer than I was. I had to go, which was a gutter. But what a facility. I've just done a promo with those guys.
Nice.
Yeah. They wanted me for an advert, which, considering I can't remember a line for Love Nor Money, and bless them, they had me going over and over and over the line. And you know the frustrating thing?
No.
3 days earlier, I wrote that line.
You self-scripted.
I self-scripted it and I still stuffed it. So we got one that was almost okay.
Okay.
And at that point, I literally had enough. I was done.
Had to go.
So they were asking for more, and it was like, no. Sorry, I've reached my limit now. So I'm never going to become an actor, that's for sure. It's going to have to be free flow from now on.
Back to the silicone.
Back to the silicone, yes, okay.
So we left off at the expensive, which is the good stuff, versus the inferior product, which is a lot cheaper.
So now at this point, you physically need to get somebody to seal around
Anyone can do that though, right?
Anyone can do that, James, yes. It depends how you want it to look afterwards and the effectiveness that you're after. Now, what actually happens with somebody who is not perfect at this is you end up with way too much silicone, or you end up in a situation where they did the bits that were easy to get to and they didn't bother with the rest. Right. So one way or the other, you're either going to get, when the expandable insulation that people put in initially for jobs or whatever, and it all goes out the side. That is how your house will look with dodgy silicone if the guys don't know what they're doing. Yeah, I mean, it's horrific.
You see a lot of those, actually.
Yeah. So, but we've got that down to a fine art. So that's the first one. The second one, which is an utter nightmare, is if your roof. So my roof is like a bucket in effect. I've got a raised area around the side, and so underneath the stones there are 2 drainage lines which run down to the side of the house, each side, to get rid of the water that was on the roof. And literally, when we're in the middle of a storm, it's like a jet coming out of there.
Right.
Well, the problem is, over the year, or years in this case, because we didn't have rain last time, that will block up, okay? This house that we're in, I've only been in for a year, so we've actually had no rain yet.
So you don't know.
So we don't know, but I'm ready for it. I'm absolutely ready for it. So also, in the previous years that the house had been occupied, it hadn't been painted before we moved in for absolutely ages. And I looked around for water leaks around the windows, and it seemed okay. So fingers crossed, we might be all right. But that one is an absolute nightmare. And in my old house, even though it was totally clear, and we did it on a regular basis, the water level got so high that it tripped out one of the ACs.
Oh, no, not the bedroom one that your wife likes to have at 14 degrees Celsius.
Well, yes and no, because there were 2 on the same ELCB circuit. So as a result, it was actually Ruby's room that would trip, but it would trip ours out in the middle of the night as well. So then
that's when you get the elbow and the rib cage.
Yeah.
The AC's out.
Yeah, but then apparently when I'm asleep,
and then you just fan, right? You get up with the fan and a bucket of ice. And
I know this is a real surprise, James, but this isn't quite my style. Now, what is my style? So I've learned is without any knowledge whatsoever, Natalie can half wake me up. At which point, apparently, I am just one absolute load of vitriol. Let's put it that way. So Natalie is now adept at resetting the LCV at night, which is horrific as a husband. But I've got no knowledge of this in the morning, and she knows that now. So bless her. She's unless it's a really bad one, when she will have to hit me with a pillow to wake me up. She knows not to half wake me up because she's going to get both bowels unless she's very careful. No knowledge in the morning. I've genuinely. She's like, "Do you know what you said to me last night?" I have not got the slightest clue, but I know I'm sorry. You know, it's one of those. So water or sand? Those are your issues. Sorry, no. The second part of
water.
Water. So this problem is that you have a riser in your home if you're in a villa, and this basically is the tunnel or whatever you want to call it that takes power and water around to the locations that's required. These are very rarely sealed effectively. Actually, that's not true. Quite often, they are not sealed effectively. The first thing that you'd know about it is when you get a fountain of water coming through your upstairs power board.
I've never seen that, but that would be very annoying.
It's a bit more than annoying. It's extremely dangerous
I know exactly
as a
what
start
you're talking
point.
about. I've never even thought of looking to see if that's happening.
Yeah. Okay. Now, the problem with that is the quick fix, which sometimes you actually need to do from a safety perspective, is to seal just at the top of the board where you've basically got the junction between the board and where it's going off. Quickly shove a load of silicone in there to seal it. Okay. The problem with that is if you imagine all the way up to the roof then fills with water.
Oh dear.
Yeah, and then at that point you've got all of your cabling which is surrounded by water, which is utterly lethal, to say the least. So you've got to get to root cause in that situation.
Which is up on the roof.
Now the only way of doing that effectively is to actually isolate the upstairs, to say the least, as a minimum. You can seal because sometimes it will go from the upstairs board to the downstairs board, and then you can seal the link going downwards because you've got no pipe that's involved there. So you can save it at that point. But the only thing to do upstairs is to let the whole lot come out, let it dry out, and then work from the roof downwards to get that seal in place and effective.
There's common sense here.
It's difficult. It's a really difficult job to do it. And also, you have to explain to a customer, look, I'm really sorry, but this has to stay until the rain stops and it all dries out. Well, if you imagine if you've just taken out every bedroom that they've got, that's a pretty uncomfortable scenario.
They're not happy.
Yeah, and there's not much that you can do to effectively deal with it.
And once it rains here, if there's a lot of water, it could take a few days for that to dry out.
Absolutely. Yeah. And but the other possibility, and I've seen this as well, is that it will cause some kind of electrical short in the board, and then it's just smoke everywhere. That's not nice.
Oh, that's horrible.
Oh yeah, it's a safety issue. Massive
So
safety issue.
I've got another issue that Nargis number 6 and I must share, because we both live in villas in the same part of the city of the same vintage.
Yeah.
You're talking about your roof, which is stone.
Yeah.
I've got solid tiles up on my roof, those thick things that are, it's a tiled roof.
Yeah, actually, thinking about Narcissus, hers is...
It's probably like that.
No, it's not. Hers is just basically like a membrane, a sealed membrane.
So she's got a membrane. I've got these thick, really thick tiles that are all, they're not...
Is it flat though, was it?
It's flat, yeah. So when you go up there, it's you sweep it, it's great. You could, it's wonderful. But when I look at how they're sealed, I don't think that it's grout sealing. It's like a silicone rubber sealing. And I'll have to take another look at these.
Oh, that's interesting.
So I always look at this roof going, I wonder what the longevity, I think there is some grout on it too, but I often wonder, what's the longevity of the joints?
Well, that's a big job to sort.
Yeah.
Most contractors here, so the traditional way of doing that is it almost looks like a saw, which is like a flat implement which has got a whole load of really aggressive teeth on it, and you basically go through it with and drag it to rip out all of the old grout, silicone, whatever you've got there, and redo it. The reality, and that's the way that the majority of contractors here would do it. The reality of that is it's really ineffective.
Cover it with
it leaves loads of rubbish there and all the rest of it. So you can use a sealer over the top of it, which can work. But again, you need a really good adhesion surface for that to work effectively. The other one, if you do want to attempt to keep the tiles there and just regrout it, these days you can get attachments that go on a router that will actually take it out. You'd use quite a lot to do a roof, to be fair, because it's fairly aggressive work, and it will take a long time.
I have never noticed any leakage or any water damage, so I just figure it's working as it needs to work.
Yeah, absolutely.
But I do when I go up there when things are getting repaired, because I'm that guy.
Yeah,
I'm always looking, going, oh, what's the longevity of this?
Well, the fact it's done 21 years. It's pretty good, isn't it?
They did a good job building this place.
Yeah, they did. Same on August's place.
Yeah. And my landlord, was thinking of things. The old Iranian hospital?
Yeah, of course.
Same kind of tiles on the outside of my house.
No, I love those tiles.
Yeah, so I've got those yellow Iranian hospital tiles.
Wow.
Yeah, so it's a very particular look. So there is that white stuff, the around the windows and the concrete there that one would paint. But the rest of the house is yellow tile, which acts as a little bit of an insulator as well. So that's kind of cool.
That is kind of cool, isn't it?
Yeah, very neat.
Nice.
Third piece, or are we on the fourth piece with water? This is an interesting one.
Uh-huh.
And this happens here all the time. And I don't know if there's any fix aside from better sealing. Some villas have windows and doors where instead of the sill or the step sloping outwards, they slope inwards.
I know, isn't that nuts? That is just utterly nuts.
It's not just one. Like, there's a...
So traditionally, and the way that people would tell you to solve this is with a door sweeper. Okay. Now, there's two different styles of this. There is just a standard, how would I explain this? Like a standard latex-based sweeper, which is like a more flexible. It's kind of like the rubber replacement that would go in. Yeah. Okay. That's one version. The other version is a build-in, which has been done in Mirror Oasis, which basically is...
Mirror on the wall? I don't even know where that is. Where is Mirror Oasis?
Mirror Oasis is next to Mirror. It's the newer section of Mirror.
Where's Mirror?
Mirror is behind the Arabian Ranches, go over the 611.
I know exactly where you're talking about.
And then you've got
the
Town Square on the right, and then you've got Mirror and Mirror Oasis on the left.
You ever go to Town Square?
Yeah, of course.
Do you ever go to the Flow Rider? They've got.
I've seen the Flow Rider.
Your kid's got to get on that.
Been on it. Oh well, no, we did that with Dylan at Laguna Water Park.
Okay. Yeah, but that's a different one.
He was traumatized by the experience.
This is old school. That's the one they've got at Mira or Town Square is an actual Flow Rider, which is a different brand than the one at Laguna. But anyway, as it gets older.
I think it takes some talent to do that. And bless him, he's got a lot of talents in other areas, but surfing ain't it.
My boys are good at that. And it's kind of like...
I've seen the videos.
It's kind of like riding a skateboard. So then they love going to these things because you get the Aussie guys who go, hey, mate, this is a piece of cake. Hey, South, mate, I can do that. And then they get on there and they go, yeah, okay, let's see you.
Yeah.
And then... it's
nice. Well, Dylan wiped out quite massively after, I think it was like 3 seconds. I'm like, get back on. He's like, no.
Anyway.
That was the end of that.
Back to, so we got into Mira, we're talking about sills and rubber and
the
water.
The building on the bottom. So how it actually...
Okay, hold on a second. Mira's prefab.
No, it's not.
Oh, no, it's not?
No,
I thought that was
that's Sahil.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, so on the bottom of the door, they basically fit in this mechanism, which is a button that is on the shut of the door. So on the inner side where the hinges are.
Okay. Yeah.
And what it does is it pushes in as you close the door, which then pushes down.
What a cool idea.
Yeah, it is until you get sand involved, and then it's an utter disaster.
Now, this takes us all the way back. So you rewind to the very... when we were talking about building things and manufacturers putting features in with windows, and then when it breaks, do you have a way to replace it? Can we replace those or no?
No. In addition, I mean, that is a genius idea in Europe.
Yeah.
Rubbish here. Absolutely rubbish. I mean, literally... mother-in-law's one. I'm constantly. I'm like, you got the WD? Yeah. I'm almost out. I know it's been a week. It's like, oh, for goodness sake, just trying to keep this thing operable. But the reality. So the start point was what happens when the threshold is pointing inwards. So so that way it's channeling all the water in. The actual reality of that is you're screwed. There's no way around it because these wipers. If you imagine, there is a cut point that they need to be. and they're not going to cover that.
Yeah.
So yes, it will stem the tide.
Stem the tide, but water's coming in.
You're still going to be in Noah's Ark in no time. So,
we've got this depending on which way the wind's blowing. If it's raining, I've got different sets of windows, and it's water's coming in. Folks, be prepared. Be prepared.
Yeah.
And it's horrible. It's horrible.
Well, the only other way of doing it is to literally install a threshold, which you can do retrospectively, and it does work. We were really lucky actually because ours is a decent size, so we haven't really had that problem. And there's kind of a little bit of an overhang above, which helps too. So we've never really had that as an issue as such. Maybe upstairs on one of the previous houses, but it's been all right.
Winds and pergolas. Any tips or sunshades or
All that boils down to how you're going to hold it down, doesn't it?
Yeah.
Okay. Now the big issue is, I think, when it comes to sail shades and that kind of thing, it just needs to be attached well, and that is to a large degree down to the fixings that you've used and whether your house is made of cheese and your walls. So mirror again, made of cheese, without a doubt.
Really?
Oh, it's unbelievable. So now I've got these spreader bar fittings. So instead of the original just an expansion bolt, I now have like 4 points to, and it's got through one very windy day.
Okay.
Well,
side note here. So it's making sure these things are fixed. So make sure they're tightened up. Make sure that
big time. Yeah,
make sure that
flat.
Whatever you've got with your anchors are well done.
Yeah,
and you should be okay. I want to put in a sunshade in the back of my place, but I've got these 2 big monster trees. Do you think I could anchor it to the tree?
Of course.
Oh, good.
Yeah, no problem at all.
Okay, I'm going to try that.
Yeah, especially because they are monsters. I've seen the videos of your trees. No, they'll be absolutely fine. It's a really good option.
Because I was actually thinking about that. And I thought, just trim this one side a little bit so that the branches aren't there. And then I could put this shade in. And my wife's going, I think we can do this. I'm going, I'm going to talk to Colin about it.
No, it'll be absolutely fine. The only issue that you'll have is the natural movement of the tree will mean that over time it's highly likely that you'll lose tension.
Right, so I'll just have to...
So what I would probably do is I would build in, instead of a single tension, you can actually use them in series.
Oh, those ones, yeah.
So I put 2 of those and get them at the absolute max as you start. And then you've got a good, probably 12 to 18 inches that you can do. So literally carabiner clip in the middle and then attach 2 to each other going to the tree. And that way you get a lot more movement than you would do otherwise. And the biggest ones you can find, without a doubt.
Sailoroo there, or whatever we call those ones.
Coolaroos,
yes.
Yeah, they're just brilliant.
Do they sell all the gizmo gadgetry, the affixing stuff, or I get the Coolaroo sale, and then I got to go get the other stuff in another section?
They do sell it at SpeedX. I mean, SpeedX is the place for Coolaroo. They're the cheapest by far.
Right.
Bless them. Big shout out to those guys. I now have 8. I think.
Wow.
Yeah, I went to town last time because Natalie came up with it actually really was a good design plan. I'm not just saying that. For around the side, we've got this games area that we created, and so we have it's like 6 triangular sails that are all at different heights.
Nice.
My boys were incredible for that because I hadn't seen them really doing the sail shade stuff in a while. I'm a bit too office based these days. Anyway, the speed they did it, and now they're doing it with wire, whereas back in the day we were using a really good quality rope, but again it did over time, it expanded. Now using it with wire, it just means you don't have any of that expansion and contraction, and they're able to get it to a really good tension. So they did it just beautifully, really, really, and so quick. I couldn't believe it. It's like 2 hours for 5 shades, all at angles and design. So they really did ace it. But that's a good thing to bear in mind. If you're confident with what you're doing and you can work with wire, which basically is a YouTube video or 2, isn't it? Then it works a lot better. Or chain, but the problem with chain is it just doesn't look that great, which is a pain. And also here, the quality of chain is a pain in the neck. So really, you want stainless to stop it all rusting and looking awful.
Dragonmark?
No, not for that. There's just garbage chain everywhere here. Very little that is of a decent quality.
So when it comes to having these sails, which have become really popular everywhere in the world now, make sure the tension is there so they're not flapping too much. And the more they flap, the more they're going to start pulling at their anchors. Yeah,
and Coolaroo is not an expensive brand.
Do not
go cheaper.
Yeah, I noticed that. I mean, great quality, affordable price.
Exactly. I mean, they really are. I mean, I've got a Coolaroo that is, I got it in 2005. Still fine. I mean, absolutely fine. I think I might have donated that one now, to be honest, because it's still as new.
Yeah.
You know, bit of all you get is just the muck that you put on it. That's it.
Yeah.
But in terms of its actual function, can you imagine in this environment to
No.
go that long without any degradation?
No, I can't.
Everybody promises it.
Yeah.
Coolaroo genuinely delivers it. It's absolutely amazing, brand.
Oh, what about the pergolas? Making sure those things stay in place.
No, you're stuffed. So obviously you can make best attempts, which is there if you just use sandbags. Create some sandbags to attach to each of the corners. But then all you'll do is you'll blow the actual material that's on the roof. In all reality, nobody's ever going to do this, but I'm going to say it anyway, which is you need to basically take off the cover ready for that so that hopefully it's in the right place and you've got a good chance of keeping it there.
I'd almost wonder why the manufacturers don't anticipate that you could end up in gale force winds and you need a way to be able to mitigate that.
Well, there's the other
little zipper thing or something.
There's the other way now. What's this whole GPS device thing that now you get from Apple and whatever, so you can track things?
Right.
I would just let it rip, put one of these on, and then just work out which neighbour you've got to go to afterwards. Hi,
you got
me again. Guess the wind was this direction.
Well, it was funny because when Simon was talking about this, he was saying it's dangerous. These things are like blowing all over the place.
I've seen one go. In fact, we had the oddest one ever. We were out in Al Qudra with Dylan's class. There was a whole group of like 20 of us, I guess. Nice, gentle day. And then a helicopter came over. Quite low, but it wasn't ridiculous. And we didn't really think that much of it as it was coming up. And then suddenly, 2 umbrellas went upwards 40 feet. Never seen anything like it in our lives. And we just stood there in utter disbelief. It wasn't even a wind that had hit around. It was just so localised. The vortex from the helicopter. It just went boom.
Wow.
And actually, it landed miles away from us because at that point it was like the Mary Poppins scene as it flew off into the distance. So we were all the dads trying to act the part of running after these things. It's highly entertaining.
Oh man, I can't think of anything else we need to think about with weather and...
No, that's weather for you.
There we go.
Job done for another year.
People are sorted. They're ready to go. Take notes. And I always say, if people got questions about this stuff, fire it through. Or if someone says, hey, you didn't mention this. This is what I do. We'd love to hear from you.
Yeah, absolutely.
It's easy to get in touch with us. So do so.
Yes.
So, Colin, you know what? I think we've nailed it.
Cool.
Yet another We Will Fix It Essential Maintenance podcast is wrapped. Want to get in touch with you? How do we do it?
Instagram, one of those. And then we've got Facebook, one of those. What else we got? WhatsApp now, one of those. We've even got payment links. That's new. I learned what that was the other day. So we can now send emails direct for people to pay.
There you go. We Will Fix It Dubai, Essential Maintenance Dubai.
Oh, thank you. That was it. And the .coms. We've got all the .coms.
There we go. It's that easy. We'll talk to you again real soon. Thanks for tuning in and share the link. And we'll talk to you again real soon.
I've just noticed your shirt. That Woody, what's that model? It's really well known, isn't it?
Yeah, this is what is that one? But this is the classic. It's the classic.
Yeah, it is exactly. They're utterly stunning, aren't they?
Yeah.
I only saw them. Is it a Fordson?
Yeah, I think
something
it is.
like that.
Yeah.
I only saw them the other week, and it's just. Oh man, this is what for us, we have the Morris Traveller.
Right.
But that's it.
Yeah.
And then you see that, you're like, oh man, why don't we do more of that?
Yeah, I know.
Utterly brilliant. And another thing, I sent a message to Glenn last night because I've just bought another minibus.
Oh, nice.
Oh no, it's not. It's utterly terrible, which is why I love it. And when I don't even get a response from Glenn, I know what he's saying. I mean, this is as shit as I've ever bought.
Okay, hold on. I'm coming over to look. Well, let me turn off this too. Do we got video? Oh.